Hello, I'm Mike Bain from Christian Voice New Zealand. Today our country stands at the crossroads, dithering about which way to move forward. Now stick around as I explore the reasons behind such a statement as I look at today's culture through the lens of the Bible. For those of you who received our weekly newsletter, you'll remember I started it with the words of a New Zealand journalist, Rachel Smalley, an article written about her in the New Zealand Herald. Now, her words resonated. And for those of you who have yet to subscribe to our newsletter, Smalley said, and I quote, she said, "Right now, New Zealand feels tired, scruffy and fractured. We're caught up in a vortex of division, blame and fear-mongering. We need to look up," she said, "remember who we are and start walking in the same direction." "I miss who we were," she said. Rachel Smalley's words to the Herald cut to the bone. They echo our exhaustion after 6 years of pandemic, fiscal missteps and unkept political promises. Our weariness is real and it shows. Now, in our newsletter, I spoke about the changes we see happening in this country, from the growth in euthanasia and the upsurge of radicalism. But New Zealand feels tired and scruffy and fractured, Smalley wrote. But what about you? Do you feel the same way? Now, following on from 6 years of the Labour government, which included the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic fallout of governmental fiscal negligence, one could agree that we as a nation are tired and we're fractured. Every day we hear grand speeches about lifting us up out of the mire, yet the government of the day, well, it's put no runs on the board. And the opposition, well, they're snarling without remembering their own missteps. So yes, we are tired and we are fractured, and it's possibly not helped by the fact that the All Blacks just recently lost to Argentina. Now, parliamentarians and businesses have relaxed dress codes, and this has trickled down to a nation which presents itself to the world in hoodies and in ripped jeans. I often ask the question, if you're invited to meet King Charles... No, not that one. Start again. If you're invited to meet King Charles, how would you be dressed? Guarantee you, if you're a man, you'll be on YouTube looking up instructions on how to tie the tie. And it goes without saying for the ladies, well, you'd be out shopping, wouldn't you? There is no dress code, and yet those who represent the king, and I'm not talking about Charles, but the one who sits on the throne above all men, God himself, well, they're very casual about how they dress. Look, if we wouldn't turn up before King Charles in casual gear, why is it that we allow our pastors to present themselves so carelessly to their congregation and to each other? Look, there is no dress code for life in this country, but I'm sure we can raise the bar, don't you think? I mentioned about being scruffy in attitudes. Until recently, I used to cycle down lots of roads and ponder why it was kilometre after kilometre I would see trash on the side of the roads, a bottle, packets and takeaway cartons. You know, it's been in our DNA since 1967. 1967 to be a tidy Kiwi. We once had pride in our environment. We live in a beautiful country, one of the best, and yet what do we do with it? We trash it. Now, Smalley's comments about living in a vortex of blame and scaremongering are bang on the money, as we live daily in the crosshairs of these things, and it's been more prevalent since the COVID pandemic. We've seen the use of fear in this country rise faster than an inflated balloon. Well, this was a nation which was proud of the fact that you could go on holiday and not worry about whether you left your front door unlocked. It's a bit different today, isn't it? Gated communities, alarm systems, they now guard what was once an open, trusting society. Yeah, maybe I should be pointing out to our last video on the use of surveillance and facial recognition as an example. But scaremongering has replaced honest debate, and we blame everyone but ourselves, which segues into Smalley's comment about blame and divisiveness. And in the past I've spoken on this at length, but the blame culture we live in has to stop. Now, I'm no more responsible for what my ancestors did than anyone else. Can I say whether it was right or wrong? It was decisions that were made at the time for the generation living, and to expect me and you, to pay for this generation is absolutely wrong and unethical and unrealistic. Now, while it's not for me to judge whether those decisions were right or wrong, they were made in the context of their time and for the benefit of that generation. To impose responsibility on the current generation for those past actions is, in my view, inappropriate and impractical. Now, I base this statement on what other people are saying. Take a look at this.
Some people might think it's not right for someone like me to speak, given the mahi and what happened with my ancestors. Myself as a descendant of Ngāti Tama and Ngāti Mutunga. But I've always said, and to a number of Moriori who I grew up with, some of the Solomon whānau in Māngere, Mr. Speaker, that I couldn't be held responsible for the acts of some of our tipuna and some of our ancestors. So when I did tell some of my Ngāti Tama and Ngāti Mutunga whanaunga that I would be having a kōrero, they were a bit worried, but I'm certainly not. Not only do we talk about the peaceful resistance, the wairua of the people, but we're talking about a group of people who've been used and abused by everyone. We all heard the type of kōrero that, oh, you Maoris weren't the first here, the Morioris were the first here, and you murdered everyone, and really you're not the tangata whenua, the Morioris are. What happened was sad. What happened was part of history in terms of Māori going down there and invading and taking over a whole group of people and enslaving them. It took away their rights. I couldn't be held responsible for the acts of some of our tipuna and some of our ancestors. We kept hearing about Māori murdering the Moriori being the first here. We're way past that. As a government, as a parliament, we're way past that.
Hey, you can make up your own mind on this one. Well, still not finished, but Smalley said we need to look up. Remember who we are and start walking in the same direction. I think it's a clear and bold statement. All of us need to remember who we are. We need to start walking in the same direction. Remembering who we are could be difficult because of the way our culture has evolved. But I want to go back to something I often mentioned in our early public discourses when a nation forgets God. It was this one line, and it said, if we do not defend the basic right to life, then all the rest means nothing. As a nation, we should be considering Rachel Smalley's suggestion that we need to look up. Now, while her interpretation and mine may differ, I believe that looking up symbolises seeking guidance and hope, and I understand that that's where my sense of salvation originates. Now, as a nation, we have moved our compass. We're no longer having it pointing true north because it's no longer north. It's a shade or two to its true bearing, and because the direction we're taking as a nation is no longer true, that is why our moral compass has altered as well. If we as a nation do not defend the basic right to life, then all the rest means nothing. Just let that thought resonate over the next few days. If we as a nation do not defend the basic right to life, then the rest means nothing. Without life, there would be no social, economic or environmental challenges such as economic difficulties, public health crises, dress codes, fear, climate change, activism, conflict or other related issues. Now we have politicians who ignore the genocide happening with the unborn and the children killed by the hands of those who are supposed to care for themselves. They now confuse these politicians about the name of the country that they live and work in. A huge number of protesters also who are jumping on the genocidal bandwagon about what's happening in Gaza while ignoring other countries because they're expendable. Is it because we don't really care because it's really happening in an African country? It's true. You know, we turn our backs on the acts of genocide, real genocide in these nations, but the worst of all is we turn our backs on the genocide happening right here in our own country. Empathy apparently expires at Africans' borders. We shrug off real genocide as someone else's problem, yet we feign moral outrage at the horrors brought into our own living rooms regularly by the corrupted and immoral media, blissfully blind to the blood of our own hands. Over the decades, I've observed that while New Zealanders have protested issues such as abortion, child abuse and euthanasia, the frequency and intensity of demonstrations regarding Gaza have been notably greater. As a nation, it's essential that we pause to reflect on our past in order to fully comprehend our present circumstances. Only through this understanding can we effectively plan and shape the future of this country that we aspire to achieve. It is essential for the compass to be accurately aligned to true north, as even a minor deviation can result in significantly different outcomes. During its early years, Christian Voice New Zealand discussed the country's direction and, referencing Rachel Smalley, encouraged the audience to look up. Our organisation shared that perspective that guidance and hope for the future can be found through biblical teachings. We need to understand the meaning of what the defending of life really means. We need to clearly understand exactly what it is that you agree with when a journalist states, "Right now," she said, "right now New Zealand feels tired. It's scruffy and fractured. We're caught up," she said, "in a vortex of division, blame and fear-mongering. We need to look up, we remember who we are, and we need to start walking in the same direction." And then she said, "I miss who we are." And like Rachel Smalley, I too miss who we were. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Really, we do look forward to your comments, and as always, whatever way your heart directs, whether it be in prayer or financially, we appreciate your support. And don't forget, sign up for our free weekly newsletter to arrive in your inbox each Wednesday. And you can do this from our website, christianvoicenewzealand.com. Hey, let me just leave you with this word from James 1:5. If any one of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it'll be given to you. Until next time.